On today's show, we're going to dive into our early all-rookie teams, talk Aliyah Boston and Ivana Dojkic, plus Haley Jones's breakout for the Atlanta Dream. This Saturday episode of Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. My name is Hunter Cruse. I'm Saturday host, covering the WNBA draft, rookie scale contract players, and contribute to our prospect scouting at the Next. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Women's Basketball is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I'm joined by my co-hosts M. Adler and Lincoln Shafer. M covers the WNBA in the New York market and heads our written coverage of the WNBA draft at thenexthoops.com. Lincoln is an indispensable part of our scouting team. You can follow him at Dovienia_ on Twitter. So let's just start out with our all-rookie teams to begin the season. There's an obvious one. We have Aliyah Boston, but we've also seen some injuries from Morgan Birch. We've also seen an injury from Diamond Miller that makes making a team like this hard early in the season. But I'll give it to you, Em. What is your five?
Yeah, so but before we started recording, actually, Lincoln joked about making the process easier on ourselves and claiming minutes restrictions. I am unironically actually going to do that. Not a full minutes restriction, but there are a couple players who, actually, as you mentioned, Diamond Miller and Morgan Birch, would probably be on my team were it not for just a pretty limited number of games played. And I usually don't hold that against players when I'm voting for awards. But when it comes to something like all-rookie, there are players we've been looking at, and we're actually going to talk about a few later on this show, who have gotten so much better in the time that they've played and have actually become like really good WNBA contributors, not just good rookies, but good WNBA contributors in that time, that I kind of do have to hold it against them just because, in the time that they will be coming back, we're probably not going to see the same level of jump that we're going to see with the players who we've already seen that from. So in that spirit, my five players are obviously Aliyah Boston, center from the Indiana Fever, Jordan Horston, big wing from the Seattle Storm, Ivana Dojkic, combo guard from the Seattle Storm, Haley Jones, I guess a combo forward, kind of a point forward from the Atlanta Dream, and somewhat controversially, Niara Sabally, big from the New York Liberty. Lincoln, what do you got?
I looked at Niara Sabally. She has had some really interesting flashes. But interestingly, it's the minutes that her minutes are a little bit low. I had also Boston, Horston, Jones, and Dojkic. Just some fun facts to put in here. Jordan Horston leads all rookies in steals and is second among all rookies in blocks behind Aliyah Boston. And Haley Jones leads all rookies in assists and assists per game. And Ivana Dojkic has been a really solid player for Seattle this year. And my fifth was Lee Mung, who's been a really important offensive player for a team that can struggle to generate good looks sometimes. And I also would probably have Morgan Birch and or Diamond Miller on this team if they hadn't played only 4 or 5 games. And I also wanted to give little quick shout-outs to Dorka Juhas and Zaya Cook, who have been among rookie leaders in minutes and points and just are playing on teams that are in the WNBA, which is a lot more than you can say for a lot of the other rookies that have not played very many minutes.
Lee Mung, by the way, got her the first start of her career last night. She obviously had a career high in minutes as well. Shot 4 for 9 from 3. Good stuff.
I actually have the same exact team as Lincoln. I think I have the 4. I think that we can all agree on those 4, the main 4 right now.
Yep.
But yeah, I just think I don't think we're talking about Lee Mong in this episode, but just how effective she's been as a shooter with the funkiness of her form is just so fun. Like in that Tyrese
The
Halliburton
funkiness of
way.
that offense, like she's not getting particularly open
just
shots
like
all the time.
yeah, but I think she's been extremely impressive and starting to increase her usage as the season has went along. But
She's unfortunately going to the Asia Cup, I think literally today or tomorrow, so you won't see her in Washington for a few games, which is very unfortunate because God, do they need her.
they do. But let's get into Aliyah Boston. One thing I want to note on her, not that there's not a lot of impressive stuff, but she has a greater than a 16% assist rate and greater than a 4% block rate to open this season. If her current play continues, she will join Candace Parker as the only rookies in WNBA history to meet that statistical threshold, minimum 20 games, minimum 20 minutes per game. So that's just something to track, just the effectiveness she has been so far this season. Like you said, Em, she's been an upper echelon big already at the center position.
I wouldn't just say upper echelon big. I would say that she has solidly been a top 5 center in this league.
Which is upper echelon.
I know. I just want to be dramatic.
Yeah, I just think with what she's done, I think we kind of differ a little bit on the effectiveness of her passing, but she's such a high field player. Like, just knows where to be, just knows how to slither through the defense, how to just find gaps, how to just get her own buckets. Like, not all the time she'll be getting post-ups. There'll be points where she's just not getting the ball for stretches, but just the offensive rebounds, being able to position her body well. But for you, Lincoln, what have you seen from Boston, and just how do you think she's just developed over the season since she's gotten more comfortable in Indiana?
I mean, yeah, the number one thing that jumps off the screen, jumps off the page about Aliyah Boston is the efficiency. She has a true shooting percentage over 69% right now, which is really impressive. It's a really taking into account for the threes and free throw percentage, that is ridiculously high. And then having her rebounding, her defense, she just understands the game at a really high level, and she makes good decisions with the ball in her hands. She makes good decisions off the ball, and she plays solid defense, and she's just really good at basketball, and it's a joy to watch.
And then also with Aliyah, we talk about it with our draft coverage as well, but she doesn't even turn 22 until after the season as well. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
she
very
ranks,
good.
Speaking of the efficiency, if you like points per possession, which, I mean, you shouldn't, but if you do, she ranks first in the league. If you like true shooting or points per scoring attempt, which you should, she ranks fifth. She ranks fifth in the league. Points in true shooting, in scoring efficiency. She is 15th in rebounding
seems
rate.
Good.
Yeah, she's 15th in rebounding rate on a team that includes Nalissa Smith. Like, she spends most of her minutes alongside an elite rebounding 4, and she is still a top 15 rebounder in the league. She's number 12 in turnover rate, and like 12 in the good way, not 12 in the bad way. It's unbelievable. She's so good at offense right now.
So good.
And it's not just the sort of like traditional post up scoring. She's scoring out of the post basically the entirety of her game, but it's not just like post up scoring. It's being able to really get into the right spaces on pick and rolls, just being able to move through the paint, to a lesser extent than what we see out of Shakira Austin that we talked about last year, but still being able to manage that space and get herself open there and just get these short drives off the catch. Just being able to, I mean, the people she's embarrassed so far, she has thoroughly ended Bree Jones's all defensive run. She's made Alyssa Thomas look silly multiple times. It's ridiculous, but she's been doing it.
And she also had that block against, was it Natasha Cloud? I think it was.
There have been so many blocks I've lost count.
Yeah, there's been so many. But let's talk about Grace Berger as well. She made
Shakira Austin look like a replacement level player. It was ridiculous.
Okay, but speaking of Grace Berger, so far this season in 9 games, averaging 1.9 points, 0.7 rebounds, 1.4 assists. She has yet to make a three so far this season, but 43.8% from the field. She has taken, let's see how many she has taken.
How many shots she taken, actually?
She's taken 16 shots. She's taken 2 threes so far this season. But what have you guys seen from Grace Berger in her limited minutes?
I mean, I've seen her in the same way that we've seen with a lot of rookies, especially, we'll get to her later in the show, but especially with Haley Jones, Aliyah Boston. There's sort of this almost S-curve of comfort in the league where, it's pretty rough early on. You can see minor improvements as time goes on, but it's not that big. And then all of a sudden you see really linear improvements over time. It's pretty good. And it eventually will level out. We haven't reached that point yet, especially with Berger not having played too many minutes yet. In the preseason, she looked essentially unable to dribble. She could dribble, but she couldn't handle any ball pressure. She could barely get the ball past. She barely get the ball to the 3-point arc against any sort of ball pressure. And we just didn't see her for the first couple of games of the season, pretty much, and for obvious reason. In recent games, I mean, she's looked very comfortable. Certainly, she's looked like the Fever's at worst their second best playmaker. She's been able to really just pull in help and read help and either find the right spots to pick her own shot or to set up her teammates off the dribble. In the Fever's game against Chicago, there were a couple really, really nice possessions on the pick and roll with Aliyah Boston, one of which they both started in the corner. She was able to draw double help as Boston rolled baseline and flick basically a full overhead pass over both of the defenders to, I believe it was Boston. Might have been a different bid, but it was one of them. But you get the point. Just being able to get in there and read more spots. She's applying ball pressure a little bit better now. She's tracking wings better the way she did at Indiana, and it's very encouraging, I think, for the signs of her development and the idea that she is going to play up to who we thought she could be.
Yeah, she was always going to be better than she showed in like the preseason games and her first WNBA minutes. It's also not an easy task to have your first minutes as a professional come with Rebecca Gardner with a personal vendetta against you, it seems. But it's something that Steve and Nikias at the Dunker Spot have brought up a couple times with Grace Berger, is that she's really fallen into the groove of just doing her job. It seems that she's figured out a little more clearly what it is that she is supposed to do with the Fever right now, and she's going to do her job. She's falling into a more comfort with that, and that was something that she struggled with for the first couple games. It was like, oh, I gotta create plays. You don't really need to do that much. You have a couple of really impressive offensive bigs on that team and some awesome off-ball scoring options. You just come in and do your job, and you're going to get more minutes. And that's what she's done as the season has progressed a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about the Fever overall right now is just there's a lot of players just being able to do their job, whether it's Melissa Smith, whose job is mostly to create and be, a standout offensive player, but she's not trying to do everything, and it's really made her look really clean inside the arc. Smith, Berger, like you mentioned, Christy Wallace, Lexi Hall being able to attack closeouts like she is, Victoria Vivian's, only attacking closeouts, finally not trying to create any shots anymore. I mean, everyone is sort of falling in line with the system. And it's, I think, one of the reasons why they're playing, for a team of their age, very clean and smooth basketball.
All right, so after the break, we'll delve into Ivana Dojkic and Haley Jones' impact for their respective teams. And we're back. I'm your host, Hunter Cruse, and we appreciate you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. And let's shift our focus to Ivana Dojkic of the Seattle Storm. The 25-year-old rookie is averaging 9 points on 54, 43, 71 splits through 9 games. Dojkic has stepped. That is very good, but Dojkic has stepped into a larger starting role for the Storm after being near the bottom of Seattle's rotation at points to start the season. So for you, Em, what has led to this increased usage, and why is she thriving of late?
So there's a couple different things that have led to the increased usage. They're all pretty straightforward. One, she's been good. Like, she was very good in the backup role. The last time she came off the bench, I said during the game that it was only a matter of time before Mercedes Russell and or Kia Nurse were going to get benched for her because she was she's pretty much easily the third best player on the team through their first few games. The minutes, like we said, for all the rookies, it's up and down your first few games until you get the handle of things. She's been a player for Virtus Bologna the past couple of years. She hasn't needed to really adjust to professional athletes in the way that some of the other rookies we're talking about have to. But, just getting up to speed of the WNBA is a different thing. And so, once she sort of got that under her belt, she had a couple 20-minute or so games off the bench, and then immediately was basically into the starting lineup because she was better than most of the other options for the Storm. Mercedes Russell, the two center lineups don't work these days. Kia Nurse has her struggles. She's still starting, but I mean, if Anna Dojkic was hitting shots off the bench, she was basically their best wing defender already. And I mean, look, it's great. This is where it gets to her per 40 minutes. She's taking 6 threes and hitting them, like you said, at 43% clip. Pretty good.
And what about you, Lincoln? What have you seen in her minutes?
Yeah, Dojkic is one of those players who's an important archetype to have, especially for a team whose best player is mostly playing off the ball. Someone who can take a little bit of pressure off of your best perimeter players and can kind of attack weaker defenders when they're guarding her. Someone who can hit spot-ups at a pretty high rate. Someone who can play make a little bit. That's all going to be really important things to have in a player either next to Jewel Lloyd or in Jewel Lloyd's place. And especially for a team that's still searching for their long-term point guard option. Having someone who can play make a little bit and shoot a high percentage from three is just a really important thing to have on your team.
And it's not just the offensive play. I think just to mention what I was saying about her wing defense before, like we're going to see her get more challenged as the season goes on, as they play different teams, as opponents have more tape on her. But physically, her ability to slide, her ability to use her hips to be physical, to deter drivers, even defending off of closeouts, has been incredibly impressive so far. She has been a real playmaker when it comes to steals and blocks. She's pretty average in blocks, but the steals have been pretty high. And part of that is the Seattle system, but part of that is the fact that she's really damn good at zoning up the backside and being able to read passing lanes. She's had pick sixes on Elena Deladon passing out of the post. She's had pick sixes against, I believe it was Jordan Canada the last time they played against the Sparks. It's really impressive what she's able to do both on and off the ball. And, again, we're going to see things adjust as teams get more tape, as the Storm and Dojkic get challenged in different ways than what they've been challenged with so far. But I mean, what we're looking at here is one of the is like a 3-and-D plus player, one of really the more valuable role players in the league if she can maintain her current pace.
All right, so let's shift focus to Haley Jones. In back-to-back games, she scored over 10 points. On the season, she's averaging 5.7 points, 3.2 rebounds, 3.9 rebounds, 3.2 assists on 39, 40, 100 splits. But for Haley Jones, it's just been the development in terms of just confidence in general. I think it was post-game, after the last game against Connecticut, Haley spoke on just the accountability that Ryan Howard just had for her. Like, she was picking up her dribble early. She was kind of just playing hesitant a little bit. And Ryan was just like, okay, keep your dribble. Just keep your options open. And then as the game progressed, she started to get more confident. We saw in the fourth quarter, she started to kind of explode, which really helped Atlanta get a win there. But yes, in general, I've been extremely impressed with Haley. Similar to the same questions we had going into the draft, just the burst in general has been kind of tough. She struggled to finish a little bit. She loves that underhand scoop, but it's been ineffective at times. She'll kind of rush things. She'll take weird angles to the rim, but in general, I've been impressed. But what have you guys seen? Starting with you, Lincoln.
Yeah, Haley, one of her greatest advantages is her size. She has really good size for someone who's playing on the ball a lot, and especially against teams like Connecticut, who are going to be playing one or two pretty small guards most of the time. She has that advantage in that ability to just kind of bully those smaller guards and put them under the basket. She's not going to do that all the time, but that's something that she has in her tool bag. Something that's really important for her is to create those paint touches and create rim pressure. And whether she scores out of that or she throws to an open teammate out of those drives, out of those maybe a post touches, that's something that's going to be really important for her becoming like a plus viable offensive player, especially as kind of a lead playmaker, which is the role that she's been playing in a lot for Atlanta with their injuries at the point guard position. That's something that they need a lot, is someone to create for them offensively. And she's been mostly up to the task. She leads all rookies in assists per game and assist rate, which I don't know if I would have bet on that coming into the season.
I think so because you guys have been so praiseworthy, and I agree. I mean, the only thing I'd add to the praise is that one of the things I've been impressed by is beyond the scoops layup sort of quote unquote problem. There's also sort of the counter that, she's been really good at getting into the paint, and when she doesn't have necessarily an angle to get her in the scoop, she's been a lot more solid in the W at being able to hit those sort of turnaround pull-up J's that are, 8 feet, 9 feet over a smaller defender, in the way that, at Stanford, her mechanics were just wonky and never stable, like I pointed out at the time. Her three-point form, it's not like lightning quick catch and shoot. It's not a smooth one motion, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was at Stanford. She's stable now. The mechanics actually, there is a gather, a load up, and a transfer of power to the shot that just wasn't existent before. And it's really nice to see, because it is actually just a solid three-point form. The dream, over the past couple of drafts have sort of taken swings, other than Ryan Howard, have taken swings on players where, it's the concept of if we can teach a jump shot, which in the NBA is generally considered like the easiest thing to add to a player's game. If we can add this to the game, then they have everything else that you can't easily find in other places. And I think this is an interesting experiment in that. But I think, to the other point, there are still some rough edges in her game that I don't think we necessarily know and can project as easily, because these are the questions we had coming out of college. It's great to see that she's gotten to the point where the things that we thought would be strengths are strengths, and some are even better. But, there's still questions about whether she can really still be a lead playmaker. She leads all rookies, I believe, in turnover rate as well. Her turnover rate's higher than her assist rate. It's, there have been some lazy passes, and she's still getting used to what a passing window is in the W compared to in college. And, the turnover rate's going to go way down once she figures that out. But it's still, she has a high dribble. She's either scoring or she's playmaking. It's, can we make these into one? Otherwise, you can't be a drive and kick player if you're only a drive or kick player. If the defense, improves over time, as, all rookies do, how Aliyah Boston was a better defensive prospect than offensive prospect, and her defense has lagged way behind her offense so far. Like, once Haley's defense catches up, again, as all rookies do, then I think we'll have a more solid idea of, what position can she carve out a role for her minutes at? At this point, this is just encouraging to see, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Although, I would just caution anyone who might be saying that, she's clearly answering all the questions we had pre-draft and is going to be a star.
Yeah, so like the thing with Haley Jones, the same with Jordan Horson we've talked about on previous episodes, is just the value of reps for rookies. Like, just having this opportunity with Danielle Robinson out, with Ari McDonald out, she stepped into this large role, because to start the season, Haley was behind Ari, and she was also playing like 4-minute stretches to end each quarter. But now she's getting like longer, like 8-minute stretches. She's starting quarter. She's starting the game. She's being able to work through these mistakes that just otherwise she wouldn't have.
32, 37, and 34 minutes the past 3 games.
Which is just like, you talk about the turnovers, but just like individual game development, being able to have longer stretches, being able to work through things, like I said, with the turnovers, being able to pick up her dribble, just having the time, having just the willingness of Atlanta's coaching staff and trust to give her the opportunity to just work through things. It's going to be extremely valuable for her long term, but just also just this season in general, to just take strides to become just even better players. So whenever Atlanta does get Danielle Robinson and gets Ari back, that she'll have just a solidified role. I think she'll have a more solidified role and just kind of know where she needs to be, where she needs to navigate on the court. So I've been impressed, and I think, yeah.
if she can continue to show that she has the ability to punish teams that put smaller defenders on her, it's going to force teams to make some interesting matchup decisions because you can't put a big wing on Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard and Haley Jones. So she's in a good situation for her having those other wing options who can create a little bit and shoot a lot and are going to help create mismatches for her.
Yeah. So thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen today. Now make your second listen Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every time performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available in the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.